All right, here we go.
We're live.
The man himself is on today. He's got the nice.
Sean Bob's here. Let's go.
Hey, Sean Bobby's on. There he is.
The
Name is
legend.
Sean Bob. But anyway, Ryan, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it a lot. And yeah, why don't you? I mean, we all know who Ryan Pineda is. I know we got people joining on here, but why don't, for the people that are going to watch this and are going to rewatch it as well, like tell us a little bit about what companies you currently own / are running and what they do, and just briefly.
Yeah, so a lot of companies these days. We've got Home Run Offer, which is our house flipping company. Typically do about 100 flips and wholesales a year. We've got Pineda Capital, which is where we're buying all our apartments. In the last 5 months, we've bought 460 units across the country. One big one where you guys are at in Georgia. We've got Future Flipper, which you guys got to see the event a couple weeks ago here in Vegas. We've got thousands of students all across the country teaching them how to invest. We also have another education company called Wealthy Agent, which is more geared for realtors and teaching them how to invest and build a personal brand and do taxes and all the stuff that you don't really learn from your brokerage. We've got TrueBooks, which is my CPA firm. So we've got hundreds of clients across the country for that. Lunar Ecom, which is an e-commerce automation company. We manage over 300 Amazon stores right now for drop shipping and stuff. And then I've got Tykes, which is my newest endeavor for my NFT and this whole entire community we're building for digital real estate, which I'm super bullish on and passionate about. So yeah. And then along with being a content creator and, I guess that's a whole business in itself as well for just my personal brand. But yeah, man, we got a lot of stuff going on.
Sounds like
you might have more businesses than I have cousins.
Well, it's not surprising.
Not in Georgia too.
I know, right? In Georgia, man, it's going crazy. So, right. So we first met Ryan when we went and played golf with you, actually. So we went to Southern Highlands and hit at least 120 on the golf course. Hit some good drives. But one of the things that impressed me the most about you was your intentionality of what you do. And like, so my first question is like, have you always been that way?
Explain intentionality.
Yeah, sorry, your intentionality on what you do. If we're playing golf, you're playing golf to be the best. If you're doing business, you're gonna be the best, and you're just focused on exactly what you're doing, and that's like the only thing in your headspace.
Yeah, I think you forgot to mention when we were in Arizona, and I hit the game winner on you in basketball.
Honestly, you weren't even in the picture, so like it's not proven. I was just there. I definitely got disrespected, but who knows if it was actually you?
Fake news.
No, but to your point, yeah, 100%. Like I want to be fully focused on whatever task is at hand. So, right now in this podcast, I want to be fully present and I want to be, intentional with that. When you guys came to golf, one of the big things I think you had brought it up was, I wasn't even on my phone at all. And it's true. Like when I go golf, I don't want to deal with freaking this bull crap that's happening at work and everything else. Like I want to be hanging out with the boys or whoever else. And I want to talk about whatever we're there to talk about. If I'm fully like work 24/7 and social media 24/7, it's just not good for balance and it's not healthy. And it makes you worse at whatever it is you're focusing on. So, most of my day is spent going from one task to another that might be completely different than the previous task. I'll jump from like this morning, I was in meetings for Lunar, talking about things we're doing in the e-commerce side. Then I finished filming a video. Then I had to go talk to my team for the NFT. Now we're talking about real estate. And, I've got my call for my coaching students at 1:00. So like, I'm just jumping from task to task, trying to be very efficient with my time and just be the best I can be for whatever it is I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. Have you always been that way, or is it just something that you've kind of naturally done and you've just seen that it's made a big difference by doing it?
I would say I definitely have not always been that way. I think like most people, you try to multitask and, you're never truly present in one situation. You're on your phone 1 minute, you're talking to someone else the next minute. You're at home trying to play with well, you guys don't have kids yet, but you will. And, you're at home with your kids and your wife, and all of a sudden, you try and take a phone call for the business because there's always some kind of fire that's happening with the business.
Yep.
And so I finally just was like, dude, this isn't the right way to live. At the end of the day, my family deserves all the attention when I'm at home with them, and my employees deserve the attention when I'm with them. And if somebody pays me to golf or not even pay me to golf and we go and have some fun, like, they deserve to like have my attention and have fun. And so I kind of have now learned to ignore everything outside of whatever it is I'm currently doing. And it's helped me a lot, man. It's made me more productive. It's also made me better at running business and delegating because, for most people, they just don't even have the option, right? Like, they're the point of contact, and if they're not doing whatever it is they're supposed to do for that business, then the business just dies and it's just stuck. Whereas for me, I'm like, hey, I don't ever want to be the bottleneck, right? Like, if I'm not the bottleneck, we can run without me and I can focus on whatever it is I want to focus on. So it wasn't always this way. I've had to learn it over time. And I forgot I didn't even mention this business, but Wealthyway. So, Wealthyway.com, I created a course, a planner app, software, Discord community, everything. I gave it away completely for free, kind of to teach these same principles of like, look, if I can do all this stuff at a pretty high level, it's not rocket science. It just takes being shown kind of the way, and like my life would hopefully be proof to other people.
Yeah. So like with that is like kind of like the next question is like, how do you kind of determine what to be intentional about versus what not to be? Because like some things are, not worth your time, right? With some things are way more worth your time. So how do you kind of piecemeal that together in your thought process?
Yeah, this is kind of something we talk about in Wealthyway. First off, for me, I think everyone graduates to different points in their life, right? Like, we start off broke for a lot of us.
Grinding.
We had to figure out how to grind and make money. And so for me, that was side hustles. Like, I was flipping couches and just doing whatever I could to make money. Then once you kind of take care of yourself, you start getting better at that skill. And hopefully you can start taking care of other people. And that could be your family. It could be your employees. It could be your students, like really just helping other people succeed as well, beyond just yourself. And so like, that was great. But then hopefully you reach a third level where, you've kind of accomplished what you want to accomplish in terms of yourself and the people around you. And so now it's just like, there's a bigger purpose for why you do what you do. And for me, that's kind of where I feel like I'm at. Like, by no means have I made so much money that I'm just like rolling in dough. It's just like, I've made enough for where I'm happy, and anything to this point above that is just gravy. And I'm not like pursuing it at all costs to be like, man, I got to be a billionaire. I got to be 100 millionaire, like whatever. It doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is all of the other things that I know make life so meaningful and so rich. And so like with Wealthyway, we talk about this acronym that I created called for wealth, right? So it stands for, wealth is the acronym: worship, education, affluence, lifestyle, team, and health. And so like most of us as business people and entrepreneurs put like such a high priority on affluence, our net worth, our business, like all this stuff, because that's how we're typically judged by the world. And for me, like, yeah, I've got that, and people think I'm a great business person. That's awesome. But I don't judge my life by that. Like, I look at my life from the whole totality of this acronym, and I say, what am I doing for worship? Like, am I serving my church? Am I, worshiping God? How's my relationship with Jesus? What am I doing to foster that? When I look at education, I'm like, I definitely don't know it all. What am I doing to learn? And that's what I admire so much about you guys is, you two are so young and you've accomplished so much at such a young age, way more than I ever accomplished. And you're still so vulnerable to go learn. You're like, I want to learn from this guy. Like, I want to get mentored. I want to go learn these things from all these people who are doing things we haven't done yet. And so like, kudos to you, because most people your age would not have that attitude. They'd be like, dude, I'm freaking way ahead of where that guy was. Like, I know what I'm doing. But education, education is a huge part, lifestyle, so many people, they like, I hear these stories of people like, yeah, I haven't taken a vacation in years because I'm just grinding. I'm like, dude, that is the worst.
No,
and I know that's not Gino's problem because Gino is like always gone. So
call me Nick Divide over here, the Nick Divide of Atlanta.
Yeah, he's talking about my partner Nick. It's actually Nick's birthday today, by the way. So
we text him. Happy birthday.
Yeah, he's not
Nick.
big, for sure. But lifestyle, like vacations and even material things. Like people kind of give material things a bad rap, and I was one of those people. But I'm like, look, like if you want a super nice house or you want to drive a Ferrari or whatever it is, like, okay, build that into your life and how you want to attain it, right? Without sacrificing all the other stuff. And then, with your team, that would be your relationships with everyone around you, your family, your, parents, your friends. Like, man, are you fostering those relationships? And then health. This is such a big one for entrepreneurs. We neglect our health so much. We eat like crap. We're on the road. We miss meals. We don't work out, so when I look at all this stuff, I say, some.
Did we lose him?
I think he cut out on the health.
The health side, we'll hold him on for the health when he comes back.
That's right. The health of that Wi-Fi. It's like me over here in my Denver Wi-Fi. Oh,
there
you're back.
I'm back. Back.
You cut out on
health.
Yeah. Okay, so health. So many of these entrepreneurs neglect their health, man, because we're busy working and we don't eat right. We miss meals. We don't work out. We don't have time. And I see so many of them get to be older. You guys are still super young. And if anyone doesn't know, Chandler's actually running an ultra marathon.
Yeah,
I've heard about
to say that too.
I do run marathons. Like Ryan loves it every time.
Yeah, ultra.
If you didn't know that, guys, by the way.
If you
Ryan's
didn't know,
running one with me. If you didn't know.
Yeah, I am not. So, most though they don't do that, right? And then I see them. Most of my buddies are in their 30s or 40s, and like they're in terrible shape. I'm like, guys, you ain't gonna last. Like, what's the point of having money if you can't even live? So, I think for me, the way I judge people's lives, and I don't even want to say I judge people's lives, but the way I look at my own life is like, how am I living out all of these principles? Some are more important than others, but at the end of the day, if I'm just always pursuing money and business and status, I'm missing out on all these other things that make life like really what I call a wealthy lifestyle. So I don't even know why I went down that rabbit hole, but
I like it though.
I think it was good. So
yeah, that's how I judge it.
The thing I kind of grasping is, a lot of people say there's no such thing as balance, but it really sounds like you believe you need to have balance, right? Is that
100%?
So
yeah, I mean,
it's not like Chandler's boyfriend though.
Shoot,
Alex
Hermosi.
Oh yeah, yeah. And look, Hermosi, he's coming on my podcast here in about a month, and I've had Cardone, and I'm speaking on stage with Gary Vee next month too. Like, these guys, they preach a very similar message of like, dude, grind, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I just don't agree. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter how much money your business makes if everything else suffers. Like, what's the point?
Yeah. Was there, I'm assuming you had a turning point, like where your life was out of balance and you had some unhappiness. Is there like a particular part that you struggled with in that whole entire thing you just explained?
Yeah. So I didn't even explain this part of my life, but when I was your guys' age, I was a professional baseball player. So, I got drafted when I was 21 by the Oakland A's, and literally my identity was wrapped up in doing that my entire life. If I didn't have a good game, my life sucked, and you go through that through high school and little league and, to Division I to the pros. And you're like, man, this is a hard way to live life, like literally game basis, man. And what the scouts say about you, getting booed, what the bloggers write about you, man. Like it's it's not a way to live life. And, I got released 3 years after being drafted. And that was the first point in my life where I looked at it and I was like, man, my identity is kind of gone. Like I used to be this pro baseball player, and now I'm 24 years old without a path. And I haven't been real successful in anything else. Like I never had a real job. Like I didn't have a backup plan. I had been a realtor to that point in the off seasons, but I hated it and I wasn't good. And so, that was kind of a turning point for me where I was like, man, should my identity be so wrapped up in my work, or, is it much more than that? As a Christian, I know that my identity should be in Christ, and that should be my top priority. And if I do that, everything else falls into place. I should be a better husband. I should be a better dad. I should be a better boss. I should be a better, everything, if I'm just pursuing that. And I can tell you that experience from baseball has totally shifted my entire philosophy on life and how I view it, especially with the success that I've had today in business and social media. Before, if I was 21, and that's why I said, you guys are so good that you've had so much success and been able to stay so humble, because if I was your age and I was doing what I'm doing, I would not be that way. I already know how I was back then. And, I would have been riding my own high so far, but now I know. I'm like, look, this doesn't define me. Social media, business success doesn't define me. I'm just going to pursue what I think God's calling me to do, and I'll let the chips fall where they may. And even if one of my businesses stumbles and I don't, do great and everyone hates me, it's probably going to happen at some point. At the end of the day, none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially on these videos, you look at the
you screw up one time.
People are just haters, and it is what it is. So
I'm sure you get a lot of hate comments in the
I don't even look at them anymore. But the point is, it's if you're wrapped up in that, you're gonna have a tough time.
Yeah. I do have one question, because I think this is pretty valuable. I mean, I know I went through something similar, and then a lot of other people I'm sure watching go through a point in your life where you transition from sports or whatever to nothing, and you have no path. How did you choose what path to go down and not to send yourself down a spiral into something else? 'Cause obviously you're competitive, so whatever you do, you're going to be the best at it. So, that could have been used in some other, part of life, whether that's I don't know, it could be anything, So how did you kind of choose where to go, or was that just a long struggle journey?
I totally give my wife a lot of credit for this. When I first got released by the A's, we were engaged, and I was like, hey, I'm done playing baseball. And this is just, I'm over it. And she was like, no, you need to keep playing. And she really encouraged me. She's like, you've trained all off season for this. At least play one more season just to show what you've got, because you've been working really hard, and I would love to see you play, one more season before you just call it quits out of nowhere. And so God kind of worked everything into place, and I signed with an independent baseball team in Fargo, North Dakota. And then I got traded to a team in Dallas, Texas, and I played an entire season there, and kind of reestablished my love for baseball, because at that point I was kind of burnt out of man, I don't.
You're drained. Yeah.
Yeah. And for people who don't know, the minor leagues is very political. And so I was getting really frustrated that other players were playing more than me, even though
Top
I was
draft
doing
picks.
Yeah. And I'm just like, dude, this baseball sucks. And yeah, I was kind of over it. And then independent ball changed that, because I got to play every day again, and the best players did play, and it was super cool. And during that time, I was super stoked, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep playing as long as I possibly can, because I am having fun doing this, regardless of if I get to the big leagues or not. But after that season, my wife and I got married, and we were, I was 24, she was 21. Not really knowing what we were going to do. She wasn't making any money. She was in college, and I was making $1,200 a month doing independent baseball. And what ended up happening was, God ended up revealing what he wanted me to do next. And this is why I'm so big on faith, because I literally cannot say anything I've done to this point has been me just coming up with the best idea ever. It's always something God put in my path or someone that influenced me to do something that was not, even in my mind. And so, that first year we got married, I tell this story a lot with the couch flipping. We furnished the apartment, we had no money, bought it all off Craigslist. And then, all of a sudden I just felt like this calling to like, look at what I was doing. Like, man, I wonder if I could sell this furniture and make money. And sure enough, it did. And, little did I know, like, I thought that through that time, I was just providing for myself. And like, it was just a way for our family to make money. And it was great. Most money we ever made when I was doing that. But little did I know, just not 4 years. Let's see, that was 2014. So, 8 years later, it's 2022. And I made the original couch flipping video back in 2020. So 6 years later, it would be used in a far bigger way to help way more people than me. I make this video, it goes viral. We've got millions of views talking about couch flipping, and then other people make these videos talking about it. It starts this whole revolution across the country. I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, who would have thought this stupid idea that I had in my apartment that I just thought was for me would change so many people's lives that were struggling in the same predicament, having no idea how to make money. And like, literally it's right there in front of them. And it was right there in front of everybody for a long time, but nobody even considered to do it. And so, God laid that path, and that season of my life was, great, but I felt him calling me to do something else. Cause I was like, man, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. Like, there's gotta be something bigger for me. And, he revealed to me the next thing of house flipping. And, I've told that story many times of, sitting there on our 1 year anniversary, we're on vacation in New Orleans, and, I'm just sitting there praying like, God, I really appreciate you, like, giving me couch flipping and like providing for our family, like, and still allowing me to play baseball as well, because I didn't think any of these things were going to happen. But I also feel like you've called me to do a lot more than just that. So what do you want me to do? And I kid you not, that same day, I saw one of those commercials for real estate investing. At the time, I didn't know they were talking about wholesaling, but they were like, yeah, you could buy houses with no money. You can do this. And I'm like, dude, there's no way. That's a scam. And sure enough, I felt God calling me to look more into it. So I Google it and I find Bigger Pockets, which I also thought was a scam. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And, I read Brandon Turner's book on how to invest with no and low money down. And, Brandon's become a great friend of mine now ever since. But that book changed my life, because I was like, wow, I really can buy real estate without having money. And I just have to find deals. Like, that's it. And so I go back after that trip, and I remember my wife and I did not sit on the plane trip together because we were so broke that I was too cheap to like buy the. I'm like, yeah, they'll put us together. I usually go. I don't want to pay $50 to reserve seat.
Use your seat.
Yeah. And so, but it didn't work out that way. It was a full flight back, and we had separate seats. And for whatever reason, maybe I just wasn't a good salesperson yet, but I didn't even try to get somebody to switch with me. I just was not there yet. Today I'd be like, hey, like, let's switch. Like, this is what's or I would just go sat in her, someone else's seat, and I'm like,
you're like, oh, my bad, man. Like,
but
I didn't realize.
It goes to show God actually used that in a bigger way, because I sat next to this older gentleman who saw me reading this book, and he goes, hey, what are you reading? It looks like real estate. And I said, yeah, it's a book about how you can buy houses with no money. And he was like, I don't usually talk to a lot of people on, flights and stuff, but I kind of felt like God was calling me to talk to you about this. I have flipped hundreds and hundreds of houses in my career. And he started talking about things like subject to and wrap mortgages and things I did not understand at the time. I had no idea. And he was like, yeah, if you want to do it with no money down, you could do a lease option. I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Calm down.
And yeah, I had no idea. But he was like, he was like, look, I just want you to know that you're on the right path. And if you ever need anything, you know, here's my number, here's my email. And he's like, real estate's going to change your life. And I just remember like having this chilling moment where I was like, man, this is what I'm going to do. And I have full, complete faith that it's going to work. And so I get back from that trip. And I don't tell that story like in depth that often. But you know, I get back and I tell Mindy, and I tell her, hey, like we're going to flip houses. And by the way, I need to max out both of our credit cards to do it. And so I end up getting about 50 grand in credit cards, and we cash advance them or balance transfer, get the 0%. And that was the money I needed for the down payment on the hard money loan. And, you know, we ended up flipping, you know, 2 houses shortly thereafter, made $40,000 between the two, the most money I'd ever seen in my life. And dude, from there, it just was one door after another. God kept opening that I had no idea about. You know, this whole YouTube thing, it wasn't planned. You know, any of these companies that I'm telling you about, they were not planned. NFTs, they're not planned. Like nothing I've done to this point has been planned at all. People are like, dude, what you've created is like crazy. Like, how did you know to do that and that? I'm like, dude, I didn't. I take everything day to day, and I just kind of see where I feel like God's calling me next.
And I think that's important to talk about because, and actually reference what Chandler was talking about earlier is like your intentionality and how, you know, we were golfing and, you know, we've told this story, you told it, you know, we were golfing in Southern Highlands and you're like, well, wouldn't this be cool to do a mastermind here? And at this room right here, we're like, yeah, we would do it. And fast forward, you know, what was that? 3 months later, less than that.
3 days you post on a story.
Oh yeah. 3 days post on your story.
We paid you like now we have 5 days later.
So I think that's important because you're mentioning none of these were planned. You just took action and you put the right people in place to, you know, allow those actions to come into fruition, you know?
Yeah, no, and 100%, man. I think when you have an idea that you feel called to do, and look, I mean, I know a lot of people here aren't Christians or, you know, maybe spiritual going by faith, but, regardless of that, when you have an idea that's inspiring for you and like you feel very passionately about it, the number one way to kill that idea is by procrastinating and just wasting time, you know? So for me, when I feel it, I'm like, all right, it's go time. This feels right. Let's go. I am a total feel gut person. I don't need to go look at the numbers and be like, well, you know, it might play out this way. And here's our pro forma and here's the projections. I've never done that once. I've never made a projection of like, yep, year 1, we're going to do this. Year 2, we're going to do that. And maybe one day I'll have to, as I, you know, raise money and do pitches and stuff like that. But at this point, never had to do it. It was always like, okay, this is a good idea. We'll figure it out as we go along. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I like that.
I think a lot of people get the gut feeling that says I should do this, but what most people miss out on is they don't actually do anything with that gut feeling.
Right.
I think that's what you're really good at, is doing it.
Just do it, man. Figure out the rest later. You don't need all the answers today. All you need is the first step.
For sure. And Ryan, I got a question too. I mean, you referenced your minor league story, you know, and you also gave a little bit of this, you know, already out, but how was that, you know, the minor leagues, the struggle, the grind, how has that helped you through business? Because it's not as rough like we've talked about. You know, we know the minor leagues. I know buddies that played in it. It's business is easy compared to it, and that's what you said as well. So tell us though, but what's some things you took from the, you know, grinding through the minor leagues to now in your businesses?
Yeah, you know, not only were the minor leagues hard, but also back in 2010 when I became a realtor, it was extremely hard. I tell this to new realtors all the time, like, hey, yeah, you're competing against bidding wars and all this stuff, but at least when you get something accepted, you're making a lot of money. These prices are high. And also, too, your buyers are way easier because they know, like, they have to commit and, like, be like,
now.
Yeah, I'm not getting inspections. Like, I know the game to get a house. Everybody knows. But back in 2010, dude, I was selling houses for 70, 80 grand that were selling for 300 grand 2 years prior and making $2,000 on a commission and having a buyer look at 20 homes and be like, yeah, these aren't good enough deals. And I'm just like, you work so hard to make $2 grand. and nobody can qualify for a loan back then either. Like it was way more restrictive. So not only was real estate way harder back then, but also too, like everything I learned in baseball in the minor leagues, really, I would say it sounds like bad to say it, but it like really kind of hardened me and scarred me for everything else that I've done later, because, you know, you go through the minor leagues where you're literally being evaluated every single day by the organization, your coaches, the fans, you know, everybody can see how good you do, you know, because it's not like business where, you know, I don't know what you guys have. I don't know how good your month has been unless you told us, which would be the story that you want to paint. I don't know how you guys did, but in the minor leagues and sports, it's very apparent how everyone's doing. It's right there. Anyone can look it up. And so dealing with that of like, man, dude, these guys are doing better than me. I'm in a slump. Like, man, this is not going good. So like mentally, it was very difficult. Making $1,200 a month to pursue a dream that may or may not happen was also very difficult. You know, having to learn to be frugal, to sleep on buses. Like literally I slept on the floors of buses, you know, every week, because a lot of these buses didn't even have, you know, like beds. I remember we would get floaties for the pool, those little rafts that we have in the pool. I would have one in my bag and we would deflate it. And then when we were ready to, you know, go on a road trip, we'd all pump it up and then we'd sleep on a floaty on the floor of the bus. Like,
God bless.
That's kind of like
Dude,
things we had to go
dedication.
through. And, you know, not only that, but maintaining your health, trying to battle mentally, dealing with anxiety, dealing with stress. Like baseball was so freaking stressful. It's crazy. You know, when I see now it's bigger. It wasn't as big of a thing back then, but you know, I see all these pro athletes talking about mental health. Like it's a real thing. And you see these pro athletes that are like top of the game talking about it. And, you know, you just go through all this stuff, doing all that for years and trying to also make money in the off season to support yourself and going through the recession. And Vegas was the hardest hit. And I like at the time, I didn't know how stacked the odds were against me. You know, you're just doing it. You're 21. You don't know any better.
Yeah.
But now I look back at it. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a bad time for you right there.
Vegas
stacked against you.
Everything was stacked against us. And I just didn't realize it at the time. But now I look back at it and I'm like, wow, that was not very good circumstances to try and like succeed at anything. And so it's like to persevere through that. And then, you know, now where I'm at today, I'm like, dude, I don't want to say business is easy, but it is way easier than it was. And like, it sometimes blows my mind at like the abilities we have today to like run businesses and make money.
Make money, yeah. It's crazy. Hey, we got a question from actually Clint. Big Clint has a question. You know, Ryan, obviously you had tons of success in business, but currently, what do you think your biggest weakness is? You know, it's Clint Cooper. Big Clint.
Oh, this is Clint the closer, dude.
Clint the closer.
$1 million student in his first year made over $1 million. Absolutely
crazy.
Insane.
We'll talk about that too, how you can do that as a coach. But
yeah,
what do you think your biggest weakness is?
Well, so one of the things we teach our students is to understand your strengths and weaknesses. And so I didn't know my weaknesses until as I started to develop and grow. And so like, you know, everybody is typically into two different buckets. Like you're either, you know, like a maverick entrepreneur type, you know, you could go take the predictive index and learn these things. But, you know, you're this guy who's a visionary, who's hustling, who doesn't like details, who's, you know, just like I said, going with the flow, going with their gut and making things happen. And then you have the analytical types, the people who want to know every step, every detail. They want to make sure every T is crossed and I is dotted. And, you know, that's their personality type. And as somebody who is obviously on the maverick side, I realized that I am terrible at like the details. You know, if you can't even get me to sign a paper anymore, you know, like I get all these DocuSigns every week. And thankfully someone goes through my emails and takes care of them because I don't do it. I can't even think about it. if I have to hold somebody accountable, I am the worst. Like we have accountability coaches. I ain't one of them because I will not hold you accountable. I'll be like, hey, Gino, Chandler, and you guys already know this. I'll be like, here's what I think you guys should do. And it's up to you if you want to do it. But I'm telling you the best advice I can give you, and that's it. But you need both in life. Like there has to be the people that are willing to manage and hold people accountable and to be the details. And there has to be the people who are going to come up with the big ideas, who are going to sell, who are going to, basically do what other people think is crazy. And that's what I like to do. So yeah, you won't catch me doing anything detail oriented for sure.
Heck yeah. So yeah, that's a good
so
way.
What about the opposite side? Because you talk about weaknesses, and I think people focus on weaknesses a lot, but I think they don't focus on their strengths. I don't think people all really dive into only doing what they're really good at. What's your opinion on that?
Well, that's why I kind of hesitated to even think. I'm like, my weaknesses, I haven't thought about those in a long time. And I've got a lot of them, but I just focus on what I do well. I'm like, look, I'm going to come up with new ideas and products. I'm going to go lead my companies. I'm going to make content. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do as far as business goes. And if I do those things, our businesses are going to be really good. And so I kind of, it's like athletes too. You have to have a certain amount of, I guess you would call it confidence / borderline arrogance in being an athlete, because, you may know you're facing, who's one of the great pitchers right now. Clayton Kershaw's older now. See, like I use guys from my
Bumgarner.
Jacob DeGrom or whatever.
Yeah. These guys are all my age, but these new guys, man, who are just killers. Imagine, you're going to go face these guys and they're good, but for you to be successful against them, you have to have a certain amount of just like unearned confidence and arrogance that like, yep, I'm going to bust this guy. And
if you don't, that's one thing I learned, Ryan, in baseball too. I played my whole life up till I was like 19. One thing, if I go into that batter's box and I do not think that I'm going to get a hit, if I go in there at all nervous, scared or whatever, this pitcher throwing 92 with a cutter on, I'm done. There's no way I'm even going to get close to hitting it. I learned that quick in baseball.
Yeah, 100%. And, there's a difference, right? You still want to be humble and understand like where you need to improve and what your weaknesses are, but you also need to be extremely confident to take these actions and succeed. And so, for me, whenever I go into something, I have complete conviction and faith that I'm going to crush at it. And I may have nothing to even prove that that's the case, right? Because I've never done it. I mean, when I started my YouTube channel 2 years ago, I, with 100% conviction, was like, I know I'm going to make it. I know that this channel is going to be big. And there was no proof that that should happen. Like there was 0 subs, but I just was like, I'll figure it out and it's going to be great.
On that point though, like if you have that conviction that you're going to win no matter what, it's probably because you've done it in the past.
Yeah. I found ways to win at anything I've competed in. Right. So if I'm trying to hit a 3-pointer in Chandler's face, in basketball,
it's going to go down. Apparently
it's going to happen. Like
there was a lid on the basket the whole time before, but
Chandler was talking all this crap. And I said, dude, I haven't played basketball in at least a year, but I'm going to have to just do this.
Do it to this kid.
He didn't come day 2 though.
I got to humble this kid. I didn't come day 2 because I was golfing.
Oh, that's true. He hit scratch.
Yeah.
The other day you hit 79?
Hey, think about that with golf, right? Like golf is an extremely hard game, right? And I started playing last year, and I told my coach, I'm like, hey, dude, one of my goals is I want to shoot par in a year. And most people look at you like, dude, are you dumb? Like, it takes people their whole life to get that good. I'm like, well, I'm not most people, and we're going to figure out how to do this. And I'm going to find the best coach who can help me figure out how to do this. I'm going to find the best equipment. I'm going to practice in the best way. And I shot a 78 the other day. I'm fully confident that I'm going to shoot a 72 very soon. And from there, I don't know. Maybe I'll play in some amateur tours or something, or some tournaments. Like, I don't know where it's going to go, but I have complete confidence, even though I shouldn't, because I'm not, a trained golfer or anything. But you have to have that faith that you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah,
you have to be a little crazy.
I think it's fun to do that because I've had the same
challenge
thing multiple
yourself.
times. like to say like I'm gonna do what other people say is impossible. But like also like, on that point is like you're literally doing like if everyone says it's not possible, that's why there's the 1% because you're the person who said it is possible and then you go and do it. And that's why there's a discrepancy between most people and who the high achievers are, in my opinion at least. Is like when I went and signed up for a 50 miler after I ran 5 miles
Here we go.
off the couch, like everyone was like, there's no way you're going to be able to do it. There's no way you're going to be able to run that far. It's too far. You're too heavy, blah, blah, blah. And you just go and do it, you know?
Yeah.
Just do it, man.
I'll tell you, I have no conviction that I can do an ultra marathon. But you know, okay, here's the other thing too. Okay. And I want people to be clear of this. Do I think that I could do an ultra marathon if I really wanted to? Yeah, I could. Like if the stakes were there, where it was like, dude, Ryan, if you do this ultra marathon, we're going to give you $100 million. I'd be like, yeah, all right, I'm going to train.
I'll figure it out.
I'll do it. But you have to, like, if it's not that, and you're doing it because you thoroughly want to do it and enjoy it, everything else, you're not going to succeed in it. Just like, so my point is, do not make goals based on what other people deem successful or what like you think is success. Make goals for what it is you truly want to do, your conviction to do that. And so like, I think I've always been successful with my goals is because I truly wanted to do that. I'm like, I want to play baseball and be great at it. I want to flip houses. I want to, you know, play golf now and get good at it. There's no like real financial reason to be great at golf. Like it doesn't make sense for the amount of time and effort I have to put in to become great with where I'm at. Like it is a bad ROI, but I just have so much joy with it that I want to do it. And like, that's going to drive me beyond money or anything else to become good. So, you know, social media was the same thing. It was like social media, you guys know, as starting, you know, channels is very difficult off the ground. It is not a good ROI, especially for the time and effort you're putting into it. And if you have a very successful business already, you're going to look at it and be like, dude, I could be doing this at my current business and it's going to make me a lot more money than doing this. But you have to have conviction. You got to enjoy it. And that's what I, you know, knew from the beginning. I was like, regardless of this makes me $1 the first year, I'm willing to go negative to go and fund it and to get the right team and to figure it out because I enjoy it and I want to do it. And I'm convicted that it's going to be worthwhile in the long run.
So even with golf, would you say like it's kind of similar to social media? It's like if you just extend your time horizon and you are that good, there's benefits outside of just going to play golf and having a good time more, you know?
Yeah. I think we talked about this during the golf mastermind, but, you know, for me, first and foremost, like you got to understand your primary reason for doing something and then the secondary reasons. And so that's with any business or anything else, because nothing is just black and white. This is the only reason I do it. And so like for me, the primary reason of golf is simply to fill a competitive need that's inside of me that, you know, there's been this void that has been not filled since I stopped playing baseball. And when you're an athlete your whole life and, you know, all you do is play sports and you love to compete and you love to get better every day, when you kind of take that away and you just kind of get put in a desk like I am now, I don't want to say it sucks, but I'm just like, there's this void.
You're missing something. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I played basketball after, and we got teams and other stuff, and I've competed in other things, but you know, golf has filled that void. And it's something for me anyways, that I know I can play forever. Like it's not baseball or basketball where I'm like, I get older and you can't really do it. Golf, everyone plays forever, dude. And so I think that's so exciting that I could start today at, well, I'm now 33. And I can still like, it's worthwhile to start today because I'm going to play this until hopefully I'm really old and it'll be great. But, you know, the secondary reasons would be some of the things you mentioned where, you know, you're going to meet very high level people. You know, I've already made a ton of connections at the golf course and the country club that will make me a lot of money. You know, the direct way of making money, like you guys mentioned, like we did the golf mastermind. It was 10 people, 10 grand. It was $100K like that. You know, that's direct money that you can make. But I'm more focused on the really big things that will happen on the golf course with really big relationships that will make, you know, millions as well.
Yeah.
I think it's big. Another thing I want to bring up on this, because, you know, we've talked about being an athlete and competing, you know, a lot through this podcast, but what do you feel? And we found a trend to be very successful with this, but with hiring other athletes. I know we've talked about it before with you, and it's so, but what do you feel about just hiring, you know, not just hiring other athletes, but using that as a big, you know, filter?
Yeah, so I love hiring athletes because they get it, right? Like, you have commonality, you can talk. Most athletes are willing to work extremely hard. They may not have the book smarts or the knowledge yet, but most athletes will figure it out. Like, they just naturally want to compete and be great. So I love athletes, man. Like, to me, if you apply and you have an athletic background, typically too, along with competing and wanting to get better, they're usually in better physical shape too. And so, you know, it goes back to what is being wealthy like, and health is a big part of that. And so I know, you know, some of my best workers are in the best shape. They've got more energy. They feel great. They look great. You know, think about this too. And I don't want to say this like as a fat shame or something like that. But like, look, if you walk into a meeting in a room, or you're trying to get deals and you go into a seller appointment, you know, the first thing people are going to do is judge you by how you look, right? You're going to be like, yo, this guy takes care of himself. Like, you know, he's put together well. Or they'll be like, dude, this guy's sloppy. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on with this guy, right? And for better or for worse, that is just how life is. People make snap judgments, whether they realize it or not. And, you know, it's typically an indicator of how serious they take other parts of their life. Like, obviously, they're not taking their health seriously unless there's, you know, something that they can't control. That's one thing. But for most, it's the opposite. It's like, dude, you're lazy, you know, or you just take it serious. So it's kind of an indicator of like what might be expected later on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Especially like, and on the athlete point too, is like, they're just the guys, like, especially if they've competed at a high level, you know, whether they play minor league ball or, you know, high level college sports, they just know how to get it done. At the end of the day, they just know how to get the job done well, and that will translate over.
And they're teachable, which is the most important thing. Obviously, they've been taught and they've adjusted, so they're teachable for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
What are you,
Ryan?
Go ahead.
Here, yeah. One more question I got about this, and I think it's important, and I'm curious what you're going to say about this. But let's say you were going to do it all over, and say you're 21, and I know that's probably what, like, junior year of. I mean, that was me last year, junior year of college. Did you get drafted junior year?
Mm-hmm.
First year of eligibility. So
Yep.
say it's back, like, go back in that time. Would you do it again? Would you go back and do minor league baseball for the 3 or 4 years? And would you go through that grind again? Or would you just go ahead and start? I mean, obviously you don't know about real estate yet, but would you, knowing what you know now, what would?
So for me, I would totally do it all over again. I mean, you know, I think there's 2 points that this is covering. One is the fast track of, you know, what people want, right? Like, so many people see young guys like yourselves and they think, man, like I'm not doing well because I'm 22 and I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not killing it. And I'm like, I laugh because I'm like, dude, I didn't make 6 figures until I was 27, you know? Are you kidding me? And it's totally changed how I perceive everything. And, you know, in the end, the goal isn't to like make the most money the fastest. There's always somebody who's going to make more money than you. So the goal is to just do what you want to do with your life. And like, what, if you're, you know, a man of faith, do what God's calling you to do with your life. And so I know that the baseball, whether I knew it or not at the time, which I didn't know it at the time, but what it was really preparing me for was all of this that I'm having now. You know, all the fame and the success and all that stuff, I didn't handle it the right way when I was in my 20s. And now I can handle it the right way now because of what I experienced then. And how I see money and value hard work and delegate and all these things are strictly because of things I learned in baseball. You know, how to be a great leader and build a clubhouse, you know, my office. You know, it's like a clubhouse. Like I would not have known how to do those things without baseball. And so I totally would never change anything. And I think that for many people, and I tell this to young people all the time now, and I love that you're doing this, Gino, and even you, Chandler, with the ultra marathons and stuff, is do like what you're passionate about. If you want to travel or you want to run ultra marathons, if it costs you money, that's fine. Like I would much rather see young people enjoy their lives and take risk and have memories. You can make money later, dude. Like I'm proof of that. You can make money much further down the line, and you'll be just fine. Like I gave people a head start apparently, and it's turned out okay still. And I got to enjoy and live my life the way that I wanted to live it for pretty much my entire 20s before I became a professional business person.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even when you became a professional business person, you still shaped your business around your lifestyle.
Always did, because I had to, you know, and people don't realize this. Like, you know, my first, I would say 50 to 80 houses I flipped while I was playing baseball because I had to make a decision. It was like, do I want to retire so I can pursue this house flipping thing? Or do I want to figure out a way to do both? Because I really love baseball. And at the time, baseball did not financially make sense. And the odds of me getting to the major leagues were slim to none at that point. You know, as you get older as an athlete, you know, you're just getting older and older. It's not good. So I knew that my odds were slim, but I just loved playing baseball. And I said, there's got to be a way for me to go play baseball because I know the lifespan of this is so limited, and I'm going to regret quitting too soon because I was already envisioning in my mind, like, I'm going to have made enough money in my 30s. Like, I'll regret not playing that year. And so I played every year I possibly could until I got to the point where I didn't want to play anymore. And I had to build my lifestyle, my business around playing baseball and staying in shape and practicing and leaving for 5 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like,
go ahead.
You know?
Okay. I'll go real quick though. What I was going to say, I actually had a good one. No, but I was going to say is because, like, I mean, the more I think about it, is like, you know, we got Gary V, you got, you know, Hermosi recently, but all these people talking about, you know, grind. I didn't have a 20s at all. You know, I didn't have my 20s, but like, why? What was your purpose behind it? Because why? Like, you got to have a purpose behind everything. And I feel like grinding away your 20s or any time in your life, like, what is that? What is that doing for you? Like for me, I obviously, like Ryan keeps mentioning, like, I love traveling. Like, why do I need to even focus on, like, why can't I go travel? Why can't I allow myself to have a, you know, a fun time in my life, enjoy my life? Like, why do I have to grind to my 20s? Like, couldn't Gary V, like, if he liked hanging with his friends, I'm sure he really deep down, like, he probably misses hanging out with his friends in his 20s. Like, did that really make that much of a difference for an hour a day to hang out with his friends, you know? And it might've made him a better businessman because he was been able to release some stress or, you know, whatever it may be. Right. So, like, that's a big thing.
So I'll say one thing, since I've been behind the scenes on a lot of these influencers and creators and everything else. And I don't know Gary personally, so this is not about Gary, but this is a general observation that I've had being around these people. Most of these people who do that kind of, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this without offending everyone. But they kind of, I don't want to say are socially awkward or lack relationships, but they do. Most of them, especially the YouTubers, are very much introverted. They don't really have a lot of friends, and they find their fulfillment in working on their business or their content or anything else, right? Like, they're very not social by nature, and they don't, like, their way of being social is by creating content and talking to a camera, which is not social at all. I do it for a living, I know. But whereas athletes, right, we literally hang out all day. You know, you're playing baseball, we get to the field at freaking 10 a.m. and we're working out together, we're showering together, doing some really weird stuff, you know.
What happens in the locker room stays there.
We're doing anything and everything that you can imagine together, and like really building relationships. And so for me, as I did that, I was like, dude, I don't want to lose that feeling with my businesses. I want to build a clubhouse and have relationships and do all these things. And I've been able to do that because it's super important to me. And that's why I love golf, just hanging out and meeting people like you guys. If I didn't have this golf thing, I wouldn't have met you guys. And so that's what's so cool about it. But like, I think a lot of these influencers, they just don't have that relationship with people before they're famous. Now once they're famous, everybody and their mom wants to be their friend, and that's different. But I think they grew up kind of with a big void with people. And like Gary says too, he's like, dude, I didn't know my dad, right? It's like, dude, if you don't have a dad, that's obviously going to create this kind of messed up thing in your mind of how you view people and relationships. And I'm thankful my parents are still married and they raised me the right way. They made me understand that it's important to be a great teammate, to have friends, to value your family. And they loved me. They were there for me. They supported me through every game. They were at, every little league, high school, college game, and that's how I've been influenced because that's just how I grew up.
Yep. It's a blessing to have that for sure. Parents to be together. But I do want to add one point on to kind of what we're talking about, like doing, enjoying the things you do while you're young, like sports or whatever, is whenever I was in college, I wrestled in college for a year. And like the only thing I do wish that I did again is like actually wrestle all 4 years. That's the only thing I wish that I would have done different. Not that I regret not doing it, because like it's gotten me to where I'm at, but if I would have done it, it's like, what if, I loved it, now I miss it. You know what I mean? Like I never got to see it all the way through, So like, if you're in that point, it's like, you should just let it fly, But
Let it fly.
And that's my point too, is like, so many people give up their dream because like, well, I got to start my business now. I got to do this now. And I'm like, dude, no, you don't. You're freaking 21. You don't have to do anything right now.
Yeah, exactly. You'll figure it out. You got hopefully have the safety of your parents or friends or family. Like you're not going to go anywhere. That's why I started, this business at 19. I had many businesses before that, but I knew I was like, all right, what's the worst that happens? I freaking fail.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a thought. And I'm hanging with my parents all day. Like who cares,
When you're young, you literally have nothing to lose. Nothing.
Yep.
Just take the biggest risk.
I agree. So Ryan, we got a couple minutes left here. We're gonna hop off. So think about your last remarks you're gonna leave the listeners with. But before we do that, just to make a quick announcement. So in 2 days, if you guys are in Atlanta, on the 21st at 7 p.m., we're having our meetup where Darren Dammy is coming down to Atlanta. He's flying in. They did $13.5 million in Phoenix alone wholesaling last year. He's got a TV advertising company that advertises for Ryan and us and many other people, right? So they crush it, and he's going to be coming to drop some knowledge. So you guys sign up if you haven't already, and we'll see you there on a Thursday. So, but with that said, Ryan, what do you want to leave the listeners with?
I'll say don't miss that meetup, dude. Not only to meet you guys, but to go meet Darren. Darren's the man, and we've partnered up with him on some other joint ventures we're doing. Like I just love partnering with really great people, and he's a beast. But no, I think the biggest thing I guess I could leave people with, I assume, a lot of your audience is kind of younger people. And it's just like, look, don't compare yourself to other people. You don't have to be the next Gino or Chandler or Ryan. Do what makes you happy. The moment you just start doing what makes you happy, and, whatever that's a job, how much money you want to make, your hobbies, don't sacrifice all these other things, in the pursuit of money. And that's kind of my whole thing now, is like, I just have seen it too often. And I'm like, that's my passion now, is like, look, if I can just show people through my own life and my own actions, like to this day, I just do what I want to do because that's what, for me is what makes me happy and successful. That's it. I don't care what anyone else does. It has nothing to do with that. So sooner people start doing that, the happier you're going to be.
I love it.
I think that's
I love it. I agree.
It's a huge thing.
I agree. So guys, share this with your friends. We'll see you every Tuesday. Normally it's at 6 p.m. Eastern, but today we moved it up for Big Ryan. We had to for the
I feel
stud.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's
Southern
right.
Highlands, Southern
That's
Highlands service.
He's probably
I
playing,
didn't
he's
know
playing
this.
at golf. Go ahead.
I didn't know this was live. That's why I was like, yeah, just move it. Whatever, dude. And
Sorry.
you were like, okay.
No, it's fine.
My
We can
bad.
do whatever.
No,
We're
we'll
flexible
do
over
whatever.
here.
Southern
right.
Highlands, man. That's our next.
Appreciate you, Ryan.
Cool.
All right.
Appreciate you
Thanks,
guys.
Ryan, for coming. And yeah, guys, just hit us up. Any questions, leave them down below, and we'll get them to Ryan if it pertains to him. But we'll talk to you guys next